Gargoyle's Quest 2 was released by Capcom in 1992 on the NES, very late in the system's life cycle, meaning that the sequel to the overlooked title was also unfortunately overlooked. Following the same gameplay as the previous title, the game's story goes like this. Firebrand is a young warrior in training from the town of Etruria. One day, while Firebrand is in training in a small alternate dimension, the black light suddenly appears and destroys his home. When he returns successfully from his training, Firebrand is able to meet with King Morok, who informs Firebrand that he is on the brink of death. Before dying, he gives Firebrand the Spectre's fingernails, and Firebrand sets off on a journey to unravel the mystery of the black light. Like the previous game, the game's story isn't too winding or annoying, but it's present and it's enough to be intriguing. The only kind of strange thing I find is, I'm not sure if this is really a sequel story-wise, because, well, they don't mention any events of the previous games, and, kind of a spoiler, the boss from the previous game is the same one from this game, so I'm kind of confused, and too lazy to do the research. Anyway, the story is actually not bad, it's pretty competent, but again, it's really kind of unnecessary for an action platformer. Just know that you have to save the world. Also, a strange thing about this game is that there's a lot of candles, and I noticed that from the last game too. Gargoyle's Quest has a thing for candles. I'm just saying. The gameplay is very similar to the original, with your basic flight and attacks. There's still a lot of treacherous platforming, but this game feels really fair, and not overwhelmingly difficult, though, as the Happy Video Game Nerd points out in his review, some of those early lava sections are pretty frustrating and require pinpoint accuracy with your jumps and a lot of patience. Again, like the previous game, you have your RPG elements, although they did cut random battles from this game, which was really smart because they were really just a waste of time in the previous game. So running across the overworld screen doesn't feel as tedious, which is good because this overworld screen is considerably bigger than the first game. In Gargoyle's Quest 2, you still travel across a rather large world with unlinear gameplay, though I liked how they made sure to give you enough freedom in this world without getting you lost all the time, which is impressive. The levels in Gargoyle's Quest 2 are pretty similar to the original, meaning that there's a lot of spikes, a lot of treacherous stuff, etc. Although there's a tad more variety here. In some of the levels, your focus isn't just platforming, but actually a lot of puzzle-like elements, like this one level comprised of walking through mirrors. Although, if you go in the wrong mirror, it'll bring you right back to the beginning. This was kind of friggin' annoying in a way, but at least it had some variety. It kept things fresh, so the levels in the game were a lot of fun. The boss battles actually had a lot more variety than the original. Like, there's some different bosses that you'll have to fight in different terrains, some that affect how you fly, etc. Though, a weird thing is that the final battle was way too easy. Still, the boss fights showed a good amount of variety and were a lot of fun, and most of them were a pretty solid, reasonable challenge. The graphics in the game are great, which you'd expect from a late NES title from Capcom. There's a lot of great colors, there's a lot more level variety, more enemy variety, etc. It's a really good looking game that goes with the gothic style of the series. The music in the game is also excellent. Capcom rarely fails to produce a bad score. It has the gothic tones, but again, it's really exciting, catchy, and memorable. In conclusion, Gargoyle's Quest 2 for the NES is another fantastic title on the system that you should definitely check out. It's on the Virtual Console for pretty cheap, and I think it's worth every penny. My biggest complaint for the game is that it feels kind of like a copy and paste of the Game Boy original, but this one still had enough differences and improvements to make it feel like a better game in my opinion. If you like action platformers for the NES, then you really owe it to yourself to try this one out. Thanks for watching.